Jane, 21, F, was one of Vanessa's, 21, F, 3 bridesmaids, and her wedding was held at a remote lodge venue up a mountain. When everyone got to the lodge, we did a dry run of the ceremony and surveyed the place. I assumed that the men would go to their cabin and the women would go to ours, and we'd relax before the wedding. Instead, the men immediately headed to the liquor store, and the groom and bride's mothers began ordering the bridesmaids to move furniture into place. That night the women did everything from dragging 250 chairs out of the shed and setting them up, to hauling furniture down 2 flights of stairs and positioning it in other places. Because I was the tallest and strongest person in the group, it was mostly on me to haul the larger pieces around, and the mother and mother-in-law of the bride largely stood around talking about details with her. I asked repeatedly if the groom and groomsmen could be called to help, but was told that we didn't want to bother them, and that they're out unwinding before the big day. The father of the bride has a heart condition and the father-in-law was much older and walking with a cane, so he couldn't help out either. At the end of 2 very sweaty hours, I had splinters, blisters, and was covered in sweat, but everything was set up. During the wedding I learned that the bride and groom were trying to avoid all of the setup and take down fees from the venue. The groom's mother condescendingly patted me on the arm and said that everything would be okay, because Jane's our workhorse. After a bit more conversation I found out that the plan was for the bride and groom to leave, and then the bridesmaids and groomsmen to stick around doing everything from cleaning up trash to moving the furniture back where we'd gotten it. Toward the end of the party almost everyone had left and I realized that 2 of the groomsmen were so drunk that they were going to be useless, and it would again be on the bridesmaids to clean up and put all the furniture back up the stairs. I went to tell the bride goodbye. Judging from her slightly panicked expression and, "Oh, you're leaving? You're leaving now?" questions, I realized that she definitely expected me to move the furniture back, but didn't want to say anything while surrounded by people. So I left, and my phone blew up as I was driving back down the mountain. The other bridesmaids were texting me and the Vanessa's mother left me an angry voicemail about how I was bailing on my duties as a bridesmaid. The next day, I woke up to a massive paragraph from Vanessa that said it was my fault that they had to pay the $500 cleanup fee, because they weren't able to get everything put back in time. Next story. My fiancé's brother, Chris, moved to Mississippi from our hometown 2 years ago to be with some girl he met on the internet. Chris has always been the type to make terrible life choices and my fiancé is always the one who bails him out, with the except of my FMIL. My fiancé does this because he has survivor's guilt. They lived with their father growing up and their father hated Chris with a burning passion for whatever reason but loved my fiancé, Heath, so Heath saw a lot. Yes, they both got out physically but mentally, Chris was ruined. Refuses therapy, gets into trouble constantly, etc. He is 33 and my fiancé is 28. So when Chris left to go to Mississippi, I was working at the hospital 70 hours a week while Heath stayed home with the kids. He had no income but he was a sod and this worked for us. However, I started noticing money going missing quite often and when I checked the bank statements, Heath handled them because he was an accountant for a couple years and better at budgeting. I noticed a shit ton of Amazon purchases and money transfers through FP Pay. When I confronted him he told me his brother and the chick didn't work out so he was helping him with like hotel stays, food, essentials, etc. It's important to note that during this time, I was pissed because of how much money was being spent and limited him on what he could send his brother a month because it's not my responsibility. So I didn't make him stop but limited him. Well, budget cuts went through my hospital 2 months ago and I was cut, along with 340 other employees. 4 wings were closed down, mine being one of them. So I am currently unemployed. Heath works constantly now. I also just got my taxes back. We have 3 kids. I got back a big chunk of money. Last night Chris calls and Heath shuts the bedroom door. I assumed cause the kids were being loud. But I walked in roughly 10 minutes later and see Heath has my debit card in hand, typing in the info on Amazon to buy his brother over $400 worth of shit, books, board games, playing cards, etc. nothing he needed. I rip the debit card out of his hand and ask him what the fuck he is doing and he just looks at me like I am in awe and asks WTF I had the nerve to do that. I told him I am not fishing out $400 worth of shit to his brother, and he goes, "My brother has nothing to fucking do and this is the only way I can help." And said since I got back a shit ton of money, I should be willing to help, especially considering he gets his paycheck Friday and can make up for it. I still said no. He is now saying I am a controlling